Year 10 and 11, welcome to an example comparison of War Photographer by Carol Ann Duffy and Bayonet Charge by Ted Hughes. It's an example response from a year 10 student. It's a pretty solid response as well, so it might help you if you're considering comparing these two poems at all in preparation for your exams. So we've got War Photographer by Carol Ann Duffy is a poem about a photographer who goes to war zones to capture the moments of war, but realises that his photographs do not make a difference to people's everyday life. In Bayonet Charge by Ted Hughes, a soldier experiences his first time of going over the top of his trench, but hesitates as he moves towards the enemy territory. So you've got a quick introduction there because in this exam time is of the essence. The student is now going to compare the structural devices used in the poems. In War Photographer, many structural devices are used which give an impression of power in conflict. For example, cestats are used to emphasise the strict routine of military life and to show how the rigid orders of the military contrast with the chaos of war. Also, Shazera is used to present the character's emotional feelings and is a pause to show that this character stops to consider what he is doing and to consider the photograph taken. Conflict is presented when the poem says how he sought approval without words to do what someone must. To support my reasoning, this is because it shows how the conflict of war has tore the relationship between families up, and now the photographer has to ask to take photos with just gestures. Another device used is Volta. Volta is used at line 13, in which it says, "Something is happening." This is when the picture begins to develop in the photographer's mind, and he accepts that what he is doing is affecting him, as well as the family of the soldier. However, in Bayonet Charge, other structural devices are used to create the poem. Free verse is used in this poem to represent the lack of order in the soldier's emotional charge. Free verse is connected and linked to irregular stanzas because in this instance, stanzas 1 and 3 are packed full of action, whereas stanza 2 has a pace which is slowed down to show hesitation. Another important device used is in media res. The poem begins as if in the middle of something which has already started. This is purposely used to plunge the reader into the action. It starts, suddenly he awoke, running, raw. It gives the effect of having a quickened pace and being placed right in the middle of everything. Finally, enjambment is used to emphasise the character's occasional hesitation and feeling of reluctance of going over the top, but inevitably he has to follow his orders. If we move to language now, language in War Photography is also essential to the poem. Many metaphors and similes are used. For instance, the metaphor 100 agonies in black and white imply that the photos that he took are painful and show some form of violence that has personally affected him. A stranger's features faintly start to twist before his eyes is yet another metaphor which infers that the photographer is beginning to realise that the photo he has taken is wrong, and it takes his toll on his emotional capacity. The line he has a job to do keeps the photographer anonymous but shows that he is clinical at his job, which contrasts with the line from the aeroplane he stares impassively at where he earns his living and they do not care, in which he becomes emotional while by himself. In Bayonet Charge, language is used to present the soldier's emotions and how conflict has made him feel this way. Antithesis is connected with the metaphor threw up a yellow hair that rolled like a flame and crawled in a threshing circle, as contrasting the natural image of the hair with death. Yellow is linked to cowardice, which supports the idea of the soldier hesitating to go over the top. As well as antithesis, the language device of personification is used in smacking the belly out of the air. This is to represent the sheer force of the charge against the opposing trench. Ultimately, in the final line of Bayonet Charge, the metaphor his terrors touchy dynamite implies that his thoughts are destructive and shows that he can't think of what to do. He just does it without thought, which could possibly kill him in the end of it all. Verbs are important in this poem too. Both lugged the rifle and plunged past emphasise the fear of the soldier, contrasting with his honour and human dignity. So that was the essay and the time given. I think the student done quite well there. Again, year 10, their devices are there, the explanations there. Probably wants to improve expression in certain areas, but that is a solid attempt to compare War Photographer and Bayonet Charge. And on this particular occasion, the student didn't have either of the poems in front of them, so it was blind really. So that was a very good attempt. I hope you find this very useful in your revision, and please check out my YouTube for any more videos. Just type in Stacey Ray. Massive good luck in your English literature exam.